The incorporation of annual source data in the compilation of quarterly national accounts, or QNA, and high-frequency indicators of economic activity, or HFIEA, generally leads to additional revisions to each quarter or month's estimates. This also applies to incorporation of annual national accounts, or ANA estimates, if the compilation system is separate from the QNA or HFIEA. Considering the QNA example, we have learned that annual data are generally more comprehensive and accurate than the short-term indicators that were used in the initial quarterly estimates. Thus, the incorporation of annual data usually involves the benchmarking of the quarterly estimates to match the more reliable annual values, which causes revisions in quarterly estimates. These revisions may affect not only the quarters in the year of the new annual data that is used for benchmarking, but also the quarters of adjacent years to avoid introducing breaks in the QNA time series. The annual source data are generally preliminary the first time they are incorporated and will be replaced by revised and more complete annual estimates the next year, or in some cases, the next 2 years. These revisions to the annual source data reflect the same factors that lead to revisions of monthly or quarterly short-term indicators, such as late survey responses or corrections to the initial estimates. The annual revision cycle can also be associated with the updates to the seasonal adjustment factors, which generally imply some revisions to all periods in a time series. In practice, however, revision to early years in which there are no new annual source data tend to be small, and the statistical agency's revision policy will generally only allow revisions for the more recent years. For example, a revision policy might allow for the seasonal adjustment to be revised for the quarters or months of the most recent 5 years during each annual update cycle. Such a policy would avoid residual seasonality in the seasonally adjusted estimates, while also avoiding small inconsequential revisions to the estimates for earlier years. Countries that use annual chain-linked volume indices must update the base period and change their index numbers as part of the annual revision cycle. They may also choose to update the reference year for the indices, or the reference year may be updated less frequently as part of the periodic major revision cycle. Here is an example of a revision timetable for annual and quarterly estimates of GDP, including regular and benchmark or annual revisions. Most countries schedule a benchmark revision once a year, in which the annual data are incorporated and the quarterly and monthly estimates are benchmarked to the annual national accounts. Whenever possible, the new annual estimates and the revised benchmarked quarterly and monthly estimates should be released at the same time. This avoids inconsistencies in the national datasets that are available to the public at any given time. These releases should also be accompanied by documentation and explanation of the revisions, so that it is clear to users which estimates have had the largest revision and what changes in the underlying source data have contributed to these revisions. The timing of the ANA and associated revision of the QNA and monthly estimate should be scheduled based on when the most important source data are available. Many countries release their ANA sometime between 4 to 7 months after the end of the reference year.